Today we are going to take a little stroll around my 5th generation homestead, talk about life on a homestead and the fact that it's not always all that it's cracked up to be on Instagram. And then we're going to spend some time in the kitchen and I'll show you a little project that I worked on this past week as well. I did not grow up living on a farm or on a homestead. I grew up in somewhat of a rural area, but we always lived more in like subdivisions. Sometimes we would, we moved a lot, but within the same area. Sometimes we would live in a subdivision that had like 5-acre lots or something. So that's a lot of space, but we never really did any gardening, farming, or anything like that. But as long as I can remember, I was always really attracted to this lifestyle. Probably because of all the Oregon Trail I played in 5th grade, in computer class. I'm showing my age there. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, then you're younger than me. You're probably a Zoomer, but Oregon Trail was awesome. And, Little House on the Prairie. I loved, the pioneer lifestyle, and we've talked about this. I don't want to be a pioneer woman myself. I like modern luxuries, but I've always been drawn to this lifestyle. And, while we're chatting about this, I'm just showing you some more of the fence that we've been working on. You guys, over the last 4 or 5 videos, you've gotten to see the process of my husband and his dad and my boys chopping down cedar trees, having them, hauling them in, having them milled into boards and posts, and now planting them so, we can have new fence row that will hopefully last just a really long time. So that's pretty cool, just to see the process of putting our land to use. But anyway, I've always been drawn to this lifestyle, but didn't grow up this way. And when I met my husband, I didn't know anything about him. I don't know if I've shared the story about how we met, but it's just like your classic redneck love story. We met at a bar. I was home from college for the summer, and one of my friends said, "Hey, you need to come waitress with me over at this bar across the Missouri River," because I grew up along the Missouri River. And she said, "It's really good tip money." And I'm like, "Okay, that sounds good." So that's how my husband and I met. I was working at a bar. He came in, and this sounds so cheesy. I'm so sorry for how cheesy this is going to be. But when he walked in the door, I thought I loved him and I needed to marry him. And so when I got up, I was too embarrassed to talk to him that night. But when I got off work, closed the bar down, cleaned up and everything, it was like 2 a.m. and I called my mom and said I met my future husband. Now, hold that thought. We will finish the story, but I'm going to take a little break to show you something that I've been working on inside. As you all know, we are in our grandma era. We have said goodbye to the sad beige era with generic abstract art, and we are bringing back comfy, cozy, warm, maybe even a little bit, dare I say, cheesy grandma style. Well, I don't think it's cheesy at all. I never did. I've always loved homes with a lot of character, and one way that you can bring a lot of character to a home is to display your own personal photos throughout your home. And I do that a lot. I have a lot of artwork we love. I have a lot of our family photos displayed throughout our home. But one thing that really bummed me out is that our big fridge and freezer, they are not magnetic, so I can't put cute little magnets on my fridge with my kids' pictures. And that is definitely something you have to have if you want the grandma era touch. So I have the perfect solution for not only having print versions of all your favorite moments from the photos on your phone, and that is the Lian photo printer. This is a portable, lightweight, inkless solution for printing. I have had this Lian photo printer for about a month now, and I'm absolutely loving it. We've used it for so many things. My kids have all printed their pictures and put them on their water bottles. We are putting pictures from our Lian photo printer everywhere because the photo paper, like I said, it's zinc-based paper, so it's inkless. There's no ink involved. It's water resistant, it's tear resistant, and they're stickers, so you can actually peel the back off of your photos if you want. You don't have to. You can just have prints to put in your wallet or put wherever, but you can peel the back off and they turn into stickers. It is so cool, and that is how I made my little fridge collage. And I have room to add lots more rows of photos, and then I have a whole other fridge on the other side that I can add more photos to as well. So I'm really excited about that little project. But like I said, there are so many things that you can use your Leanne photo printer for. The Leanne Pearl prints 2x3 photos, and you can choose whether they're borderless, whether they have a border. You can even make them look like a Polaroid. So it's such a cool concept, and the photo quality is actually better than any of the other quick printers that I've seen. My daughter has a Polaroid. The quality is a lot better than that. And I actually watched a few videos because there are a few printers like this on the market, and this was by far the smallest one, so it's the most compact. I think it had the best quality, and like I said, I love that you can turn the photos into stickers. The Leanne photo system is a totally wireless system, and it works using Bluetooth, not Wi-Fi, so you don't have to worry about having a bad connection. It works for both Android, it works for iPhones, and it is so easy to set up and use. You just take it out of the box, charge it, download the Leanne photo app, and then you print directly from your app to your photo printer. It takes no time at all. Not only is the Leanne Pearl the most compact and easy to use wireless portable printer that I have found, it's also the most affordable. You can get the Leanne Pearl and 50 zinc photo papers for under $100. This is the perfect gift idea for someone else or for you if you're just wanting a way to get all of your photos that you have saved in your camera roll off your phone and actually display them. Leanne has given me a special discount code for Hopewell Heights subscribers. Just click the More button below this video and you will see my discount code where you can follow the link to learn more about Leanne wireless inkless photo printing. Okay, back to our little chat about homesteading, and let's take a quick peek at my chicken run. This is my chicken run. That's a 5-foot tall fence, and they can fly that fence. If I want them to stay inside of it, I have to clip their wings. We do that sometimes. In the winter, we'll clip their wings and coop them up. The chicken run that we have is on the back side of a farrowing house. That red building was a farrowing house, and this other white building here that needs a paint job, it's also a farrowing house. So we have 2 farrowing houses. Farrowing means, you know, when pigs give birth. So those are pig houses essentially, because my in-laws used to have lots of pigs on this farm, but we don't keep that many. So these buildings are mostly unused right now. But we do keep our pigs in there. We keep our cows in the pasture that's behind the farrowing houses, and we have chickens free ranging everywhere. But you know, as far as how I got to this lifestyle, like I said, I was always drawn to it, but never really had a plan on how to get here. When I met John, I knew nothing about him. I didn't even know his name. I just saw him and I loved him and I needed to marry him. So I had to devise a plan on how to make him mine. So I found out that he liked to drink Miller Lite, and the next time he came to the bar, well, I saw the group he was with pull in to the bar because the front was like all windows, and so I just iced up a bucket of Miller Lite. I went and stood in the doorway, and you know, I just shot my shot, and the rest is history. So I did make the first move there, but I didn't know he had a farm or anything like that, and he wasn't living on his family farm at that time. So I was really excited when I found out that he grew up on a farm. He wanted to eventually live on a farm. And I think it was like the first couple weeks, you know, we just put our cards on the table, said we were going to have babies and get married. And that was just understood that this is what we would do someday. So for us, it was always pretty easy. We knew we both wanted to live this life. As far as how that would look, we haven't always agreed on those details. By the way, look how pretty these cedar boards are, and they smell so good. I love seeing new fence go up because as I'm getting ready to show you, a lot of the fence really needs to be replaced. You can see in the background of this video a fence row on the left there, very back behind the barn, a fence row that they recently replaced, and it just looks so good. But the first thing that I wanted to talk about is as far as do you really want to live this life? I think since 2020, since you all know what went down in 2020, a lot of people have been turned on to homesteading or having land, having a farm. But with that comes a lot of work. It's not all just frolicking in fields like we see on Instagram. In fact, that's very little of it. Or dare I say, that's like almost 0% of it. It's mostly work. It is a lot of work, a lot of maintenance. And if you want to live this life, if you want to live on a homestead and a farm, you need to be okay with that as a wife. Because what that means is that either your husband or you and your husband together are going to be working mostly on projects outside of your home. So if your dream is to have a perfect home that is perfectly manicured and perfectly spotless, and your honey-do list is filled out and that's what you spend all your Saturdays on, homesteading and farming is not for you. That's something that I've had to learn. And I've mostly been okay with that because, uh, I always wanted this. And when John and I were dating, his mom would kind of tell me stories like, I still don't have the back step off of my house and it's 40 years later or whatever. And she'd just laugh about it. And so I just kind of I gathered that that's just how it was. Um, so, yeah, I've just been okay with it. But I've seen a lot of stories of people who in 2020 they did the whole thing where they sold their house, bought some land, and ended up hating it because they just weren't warned about the amount of work and maintenance that goes into having a homestead. And now we're kind of walking around the house, so I'm just showing you the layout of everything. Um, Behind our house is the garden. You can see the garden off to the left there, and we have all the farm buildings like right here with us. So everything's kind of located, all the buildings are located in the center of our farm. We have a lot more land ground that I'm not gonna show you and cover all the ground today, but all the buildings are on probably 5 acres, and that's what I would call the homestead. That's if you look up the definition of a homestead, it's like a home and its buildings, that's on land. So I mostly kind of stick around these 5 acres, whereas the rest of the land is farmed and cattle are run on that. By the way, this is our puppy Bonnie that we got I showed you her a few weeks ago, and she's growing so fast. She's so sweet. I just love her. But back to that first point about considering if you really want to live on a homestead or a farm, you just need to be okay. Like, look, this is my back porch. It's comfy and cozy, and we enjoy sitting back here. But you guys, this is not going to be like on the cover of Southern Living. I mean, there's stuff everywhere, like dog food and just stuff. And I could have cleaned it up and styled it to show you this video, but I'm trying to show you what things really are. When you have a lot of kids and like, okay, this needs to be painted. You can see it needs to be stained. There's stuff I would like to do. We haven't landscaped our house and it's been 7 years, but my list of wants comes after the farm, period. Um, that's just the way that it has to be because things that I want aren't as important as the animals that we've committed to care for that need fencing and need structures, if I'm making sense. So I think, have we talked about that in a recent video, like needs versus wants? That can be applied to farm life too. Your animals, when you commit to children and animals, they have needs, and those needs must be met before your wants of, little touches to your home that you need your husband's help with. So, one thing I've done is I've just tried to focus on what I can do in our home. There's a lot I can do. It scares my husband when he sees me with power tools trying to do things myself. So I do it when he's not home because he has anxiety watching me try to do projects. But you get the point. There's a lot that I can do to work on our home. You know, I am not going to get too crazy with that. With 5 kids that I'm homeschooling, I don't have time to do any major like building construction projects or anything like that. But a little coat of paint here and there, some home decor, hanging pictures, adding furniture. I can do all that kind of stuff. And then I just don't worry about the rest. The stuff I need my husband's help with, that's on my wish list, like landscaping or whatever, I just don't worry about it. He's aware that that's something I would like to do at some point, but I don't give him a timeline. I don't nag. I just don't bring it up, to be honest. And that's how it has to be. Like if you're watching this and you're a farm wife, you know exactly what I mean. You can't nag your husband about those like honeydew things because like I said, it then the farm is going to be sacrificed, which that's just not how this operation can work. So that is something that you really need to decide if you're okay with, if you have dreams of homesteading and farming. Now, maybe you have the resources to hire a lot of help, and then that everything I said might just go out the window, because if you can hire things out, then no problem. I mean, by all means, do that. I think that's awesome. If you've got the time and resources to hire things out, amazing. Go for it. Get it done. But if you're doing things yourself, then you just have to learn to prioritize and to be okay with the farm coming before the house and before your list of things you need your husband's help with. The other thing that I would consider, if you're wanting to live on a homestead, live on a farm, is are you ready to make some adjustments in your social life? In last week's video, I kind of covered that dilemma that I had when we first moved out to the farm and I wanted to homestead is I didn't make those adjustments. So I was still saying yes to all the coffee dates, all the girls things, and also trying to start gardens and tend to animals, and it wasn't working. It was chaos. So my husband and I had to have that heart to heart there where he was like, no, you can't do all this stuff. And I was like, I know I can't do all this stuff. I just needed to hear that. But anyway, do consider that if you're a person to where your social life is really, really important to you and you feel that you're called to that, then and you're currently like living in the suburbs, living in the city or whatever, maybe that's the life for you. I mean, not everybody's called to live on a farm. I love it. I prefer it. I think it's great. But for all of time, there have been cities. There have been villages where people lived in closer proximity, and that's just fine. Not everybody has to live on a homestead. Not everybody has to live on a farm. I think for a lot of people, city living or, suburb style living is great. That's great. So really do take some time to consider that. If you're homestead dreaming, are you, socially willing to make some adjustments? That doesn't mean you have to live, if you choose to homestead, you don't have to live in isolation. We are certainly not isolated. We do a lot of stuff, but I've talked about this before as well. We mostly keep friends who also live this lifestyle because it's just easier. They understand. You have things that you can relate to them about, and yeah, they just get it. My friends know that I can't just drop everything and go do this or that, and they're not going to, be offended if I can't, and vice versa. The last thing that I would say to consider if you want to live on a homestead, want to live on a farm, and this kind of ties in with that first point of like, you know, not having time to focus on your personal to-do list is money. It's expensive these days. Maybe you think you're going to save money. You're probably going to spend money more than anything, especially if you're just getting started and you don't have structures. You don't have your buildings, your fences, any equipment you might need. So that's definitely something to think about. Those would be my 3 points. But let's talk about what I'm doing in the kitchen here. I am inside now, going to make some dinner, and we're going to whip something up from leftovers. So I have some corn, I've got some rice, I've got some cooked chicken breast, and pulled out some potatoes, and we're just going to make like a skillet with all this. Going to make myself a nice coffee here, and power through this meal. So sometimes when I'm just not really feeling it, as far as cooking dinner, I have to do it anyway. So I just make myself a drink, whether that's a nice coffee or just, I don't know, something like that, a little afternoon pick me up, and I'll find like a podcast or YouTube video to put on and just make it enjoyable for myself, and then just do it because the family has to eat. And pouting about that is not it's just not something I'm going to do, because that's not going to make it any better. And I try to be very practical like that. As far as my attitude is, I just try to think like, how am I, how I'm feeling, is it going to make it better if I just brood on that? No, it usually never is. So I try to like, switch things up and change my mood and get it done. But while I'm cooking here, let's just go back to that conversation we were having. Gotta do some nursing and cooking here because, the baby does not wait. We don't make baby wait to eat in this house because babies don't have wants, they have needs. When they're hungry, they don't understand, like, oh, you have to wait 5 minutes or whatever. They just need to eat. So the littlest people in the house have their needs met first. That's just how we operate here. But anyway, if you can get over, those are just I'm sure there are more things to think about if you're thinking about, farming and homesteading, but those three things, just as a woman at least, if you can get past those things, like not being insistent about your to-do list being done and focusing on the needs of the farm and homestead, if you can get past making some adjustments in your social life, and if you can get past the fact that you're probably going to spend money before you save money at first, then, it might be for you. And there are a lot of amazing things about living this lifestyle. One thing that I would highly recommend is not doing it alone. If you can do this with family, or even it could work like, buying land with friends if they share your religious values. I'm a big believer in that. When you're going to partner with somebody, you got to be equally yoked, and you have to be equally yoked in your religious values. Otherwise, eventually you're not going to see eye to eye. But yeah, don't do it alone. We live here on my in-laws' property, so this is their farm. This has been in my husband's family. My kids will be the fifth generation now. And it's just such a gift that my kids get to grow up in such close proximity to their grandparents that they can just run over to grandma and grandpa's house, or that my sons are learning from their grandpa and from their dad. They're all working side by side. It's truly priceless. Like, you just can't put a price tag on intergenerational living like this. We don't all live in the same house. They live in their house, which is right across from ours, and that's nice. I've never done the intergenerational living thing as far as like living with grandparents. I know it can be done, but I like having having our separate house. That's not to say that I wouldn't, like, I actually wouldn't be opposed to my adult kids living here if they were just getting started, like newly married, wanted to live in our house for about a year and then get out on their own. That'd be fine with me. But yeah, living in close proximity, ideally with family, is great. Like the idea of the family compound or whatever. That's actually, I think I've showed you guys. That's how my mom and dad live. So my mom and dad have all of my grandparents living there with them on one piece of land, and my sister and her husband are going to be living there as well, and I just have one sister, so the family's basically taken care of, and I do think that's ideal. It's not for everybody, but it is ideal if you're going to be living rurally. All right, we're just out in the garden picking some herbs for our leftover kitchen sink skillet. I've got chives here. Chives are a perennial. They'll come back every year, so go plant you some chives. And then low maintenance. You don't have to do anything. They just come back every year. So I picked some chives, picking some parsley, and this is oregano here. This all came back from last year. I'm gonna take this in and spice up my my skillet. So in the skillet I've got, let's see, what do we have? Chicken, rice, corn, potatoes, and herbs. Yeah. Anyway, there are so many benefits to this lifestyle, of course, like I was saying, but I do think it's good not to do it alone. I think it would be, we haven't done it alone. We've always lived here, with my in-laws. But I think it would be very easy to become lonely and get really overwhelmed if you didn't have anybody, not necessarily even living, on the same property, but just living this lifestyle alongside of you. So if you didn't have friends living the same lifestyle. And I do think that that's one benefit of social media. A lot of people that are newly homesteading have turned to the homesteading community on social media just, to find community, to find encouragement, to learn. I've certainly learned a lot from the online homesteading community, although it can be a little bit dogmatic. You have people who can get a little bit crazy and like police you on your level of homesteadingness. I don't, that's not a word, but you all know what I mean. And I'm not like that. I like my, my modern conveniences, but I really do love this life. I found a lot of joy and peace and contentedness in living a homesteading, lifestyle here on our farm. I shared with you all last week. It hasn't always been an easy transition, leaving I didn't grow up this way. And plus I had a successful career at one point. So even though this is what I was attracted to and what I wanted, it hasn't been easy getting to this place of being very content here. But I found that just, accepting my station in life as a woman who lives on a farm and has all these things to take care of, like really accepting and embracing that, um, it's just been, yeah, been the key to being content, because we hop online and within 10 seconds I can scroll and I can see women living all sorts of lifestyles, women living in the city, women living in the suburbs, women living all kinds of lifestyles. And it's easy to think, oh, I want to do a little bit of all of that. I want it all. We talked about this last week. You can't do it all, and that's okay. All right, we have our leftover kitchen sink skillet here, the potatoes, the corn, the chicken. What else did we put in here? The rice. Topped it with some cheese, the herbs. This turned out really, really good. Everybody liked it. It was a crowd pleaser. So that would be a tip that I have for you guys. Learn this aside from the potatoes and the cheese, this was all leftovers. So it's a really good skill to learn, is just how to not let your leftovers in your fridge go to waste. You can almost, if you have meat, you can almost always come up with something delicious. This wraps up our chat for the day. Don't forget to check out my discount code and link for the Lian wireless inkless photo printer. That will be in the description. Just tap the more button, and I will see you all next week.